entertained? Are you not entertained?
That they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Why so serious?
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
Well, I'm not doing anything. I want you to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling Community Theater here on the Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling channel on Twitch. I'm your host, Vinnie Nardiello. We've been doing this now for about a month and a half. Our goal of bringing theater to Twitch, introducing new playwrights, new works. And, here's the thing. We were doing this because, hey, you can't do live theater. So we're going to try doing it right here. And, they announced this week that Broadway is coming back in September. And I have to imagine, I'm just guessing, I don't know this for a fact, but my guess is we had something to do with that. My guess is with our literally dozens of views that we've had on YouTube, they decided we have to bring Broadway back. People are clamoring for it. So thank you. Thank you to our dozens of viewers out there who are making it happen. And I'll take credit. I feel like I saved an industry. I did. All right, guys. So it was a little bit different this week. We've had large cast, small cast. This week we only have a one-man show. I don't want to say only have because it's he's not an only. It's a pleasure to have this one guest actually. We're doing something a little bit different here. So let's bring out our guest, Shenandoah Thompson.
Good evening. Good evening.
Hey, how you doing?
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Now you were an actor in one of our previous episodes there.
That is right. With I think it was with your buddy Mark Kay. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really think we got to talk too much that night. What did you think of that experience of doing these readings?
So I'm torn between the similarity of film that it makes you feel. It makes you feel like it's got this really delicate, really intimate. Like I love all the clips that you played before, because those are all really close-ups where the camera's right here. And at the same time, it has this almost vaudevillian feel to it because you don't know what's going to happen. It's live. It's streaming, and dogs are barking, cats are meowing, rain is falling. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, it's like you're no longer. Whenever you do live theater, there's always the chance of it's live. There's an interruption, but the interruption is usually like somebody having a heart attack in the audience, or like sirens going by. But here it's like the distraction of your own home.
Yeah.
So you're still dealing with it's still a live element, and trying to stay in the moment and closing out that everything outside, all those distractions that you might hear.
Absolutely.
And tech issues too. That's always a possibility.
And that's I like that we're in StreamYard. I do because I do music as well, and I use this for musical streaming. One of the things that we've had to deal with occasionally, knock on wood, you don't have to deal with it too often, but you get Zoom bombers. You get people in certain theater settings. They're just getting on there to harass people and make some noise. And that can be a really, really distracting element for Zoom theater or for the virtual.
How does that actually happen? How does a Zoom bomber find their way in?
I don't know enough about it. I'm assuming hackers. I'm assuming it's just searching for thousands of links and just going, oh look, this one works. And
it seems like just such a low level, thing for a hacker to do, like
it is. It's very base. But then I remember how I was at 14, and I would be lying if I said I behaved any differently.
Yeah, we are kind of. I when I was 14, there was a and I'm guessing I'm a good amount older than you. There's the public access channel in town, and there was people who do call-in shows for the, like, just be guys like just some like lunatic with like a public affairs show of some type, and you could call in. And my friends and I would just call in to these poor people and just fuck with them all the time. Just, like they're paying money to be on this public access show. They have zero actual, I guess it's sort of like YouTube actually, as far as I don't let anybody on. And so we would just, there was one guy, he had a like a public affairs show. Another guy had a show where he would give you betting tips. There was also a psychic that had a show, and we would just call in and basically like harass these people. But because they had no viewers, it never occurred to them like, hey, maybe we shouldn't take any calls. It was more like they were more flattered by the fact that 14-year-olds were like fucking with them than the fact that we were ruining their show. They were like, hey, there's still people out there. A viewer's a viewer.
I mean, the Nielsen ratings, they don't really care if you're asleep, awake,
Yeah. They were just people who were just so happy that like they were on TV and somebody was listening, even if it was just like a 14-year-old coming on to, scream Baba Booey at them. They didn't really care.
The invention and the inception of cranky anchors.
Yeah. So, like I said, we're doing something a little bit different. Now, you were telling me about this project, and it came from such an interesting place that, well, I'll let you tell the story of, the play that we're going to read tonight and, where it came from.
Yeah, well, so like you said, last year everything, shut down, and it was a moment of reinvention. So I started taking a bunch of different online classes. I took playwright class, linguistics class. I've taken a bunch of coding classes. I'm struggling with them. But in the playwriting class, we got a prompt, which was, take a picture and develop a monologue, develop a train of thought. So I took this picture, and it was a local photographer to the Peekskill area, Ocean Morissette. And it really spoke to me about, everything that was going on culturally, sociopolitically, all of it. So I wrote this monologue. Then I took the next step of the assignment was to take the monologue and develop into a, sort of like a tableau of sorts. And I did that and realized that it was unproducible at the time because it was a cast of like, I had 30 strangers coming on and being, in the middle of this subway car. And
that might be unproducible even in 5 years. I don't know. That may be
exactly.
forever unproducible.
Yeah, no, it's like, you think of the great chorus numbers. Nope, we're done. It's 5 people and the Michael Jackson hologram. We need that technology now.
I mean, let's face it, so much of theater is based on how many people you can actually get. And
true.
But I'd be cool if 30 people in the in the car. But I think most of our projects you come up with different versions: the small version, the medium version, and then when some sucker wants to put some money into it, the biggest version.
Absolutely, and that's that's sort of what I started looking at after that, and I stripped it down to a solo concept where it could just be one person monologuing as almost beat poetry. I have sort of a duel where there's 2 main characters, protagonist, antagonist, and they're telling each other the story. And then I have it done stage. I've got an idea to do it on film as kind of like a micro short. And that's what again, like we were talking, the evolution of theater is really interesting.
I love hearing how
to be a part of it.
I love hearing how adaptable everything you are, and because I think sometimes we can all get locked into our initial vision and the idea of this is how I saw it for the first time, and I can't deviate from my vision. And it's weird because I think we always, whenever you hear a story of the person who didn't deviate from their vision, they're the hero of the story. It's always like, yeah, they didn't take no for an answer, and they saw it their way, and they wouldn't let anybody mess with their idea, and they wouldn't change anything at all. But there's also something to be said for the flexibility too, and that is a skill, and it's I think it's such a great talent for an artist to have, to be able to see the same idea and how many different ways, can we do it based on our own circumstances?
Absolutely. That's my whole entire process with pretty much all of the art that I try to create is yield to the art. I don't control it. I can't force it to be something if it doesn't want to be that. It's I'm kind of the opposite of somebody who works with clay.
Yes, it moves you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think maybe you said you have a beat poetry background.
I consider myself actor, director, singer, songwriter. My real background is musical theater. It's where I got the most exposure to all things theatrical. But after, when I was about 14, I left school, or both of us parted ways. We agreed not to talk to each other anymore. And I immersed myself in reading the classics and reading, Antigone, and reading Sophocles, and reading Shakespeare, and reading, all of the American poets, Eugene O'Neill and Albee, etc. And ever since then, I just feel like that expression, that humanist part of the art is really the most wholesome. It's the best thing we've got.
What brought you to discover those the classics?
I
think a teacher or just your own?
I think it was
curiosity.
Growing up in a university town, I was surrounded by people that were much my senior, so I was hearing their conversations. And then when I was doing theater in the community, I was doing theater with adults. And so, what book has he got? Oh, that's Macbeth. Oh, what's this about? Oh, wonderful. And very quickly you just kind of amalgamate all of these references and all of these points of view. And I think you kind of pigeonhole, but you kind of like chip away at the block and give yourself your own decision of what you want to create, what you want to do. And then, like you say, you have to yield to it. You have to be flexible, because you're going to run into that brick wall. You're going to build the wings. You're going to, fly to the sun. You're going to melt, and then you're going to have to figure it out again. You're going to have to do something new.
Yeah, that's great. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my kids were screaming outside. I don't know if you hear them. So this is what I'm talking about being, the distractions. I apologize to you for that there.
No, you're fine.
So, Tom, let's bring up the picture that was Shenandoah's prompt.
Yeah, and so...
waiting on this, Tom. Tom's is current. Our producer, Tom, is doing 2 shows at once right now. That's how talented he is.
My hat is obviously off to him because
I tell you what, Tom, do we have the picture? All right. Well, as soon as we get we just try to get him to pull the picture. I apologize for this.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
All right. So, all right. Maybe you just go with this. Do you need me? Would you like me to read your stage directions, or are you going to do this on your own?
I've actually got I've got the original version, just the monologue that I wrote, and I printed it off, and I'll just kind of go through it with as the beat poet, as it were. All
right. So here's what I'll do. I will duck out here. I will mute myself. I'll stop my camera, and I'll leave it all up to you here. Okay. Just in a few minutes.
Breathe. Sweat beads. Brakes scream. 6 a.m. Subway speeds. Powdered sterile nitrile gloves. Cut off scrubs. Discolored tees. Ghost of 103rd Street Station. 6 train never appeared so vacant. Safer journey, less populated. Few disregard. Masks mandated. Passengers hold hesitation. Anxieties, anticipation, stares, and near credulation, judging, praising my vocation. Segregated, ingratiated, overworked, decompensated, cornered, voice ignored, placated, sociologically unappreciated. 20 weeks since last vacation. Ceased hazard incentivication. Millions choose rent or starvation. Work out of sheer desperation while at home. Isolation from family, friends, all blood relation. Pretend it's only simulation. Until cure or vaccination, this is who I'll be. Countless others, just like me, clung to this pole so anxiously. Was their commute from A to B purely of necessity? Some crucial task or utmost need, or merely leisured luxury? A quest, fulfilling dire need, medicine, grocery, some whiskey or a bag of weed, a pint of beer, or all of these? To see their sister's neighbor's niece, to learn a lesson or to teach. And were they allowed a seat? Or do they choose to stand like me? Could they truly choose? Normal means coffee sells, freshest pastries, cafe smells, mocha lattes, soft chewy caramels, modern day wish you well, ere I long to sit a spell, watch a pair of ne'er-do-wells. But duty calls, and time will tell. So once more, friends into this house, slamming doors, alarming bells, exposure risks, cries for help, heartbreak, loss of families felt, goodbyes said only on their cell. Cursing conclusion, cultural questions answers cannot quell, nor endured to pose. Fleeting glances, pleading, fear, personal protective gear. How and why and where is here? Could this go on for several years? Glasses cover forming tears, PA echoes in my ears. Bowling Green, doors closing, stand clear. Ghost of 103rd Street Station. 6 train guardian disappears.
All right. I'll give you that too there.
Yeah, that's a little...
Great job there. Now, we tried to pull the picture up. It didn't work out there, but it was it was a gloved, hand on a subway train.
Yeah, it was, and it's done all in black and white. And what struck me about the photo was there was something almost timeless. It didn't necessarily have to be during the pandemic. It didn't necessarily, speak only to to that catastrophe. It was something larger, and it hit me. And it was like I mentioned, it was that artist, that human expression. I was like, this.
We probably should have been wearing gloves and masks on the subway all along. In actuality,
the smart ones were. I am now convinced. And oh my God, you think of that scene in Elf where he picks the gum off of the bit. No. Yeah. I think we're all contaminated now just by that.
I was watching. There was the Pixar movie Soul.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
It came out during the pandemic. I was watching it with my kids, and there was a scene where the character who doesn't really know much about, I guess, like a naive character like an elf, and is just eating people's leftovers on the subway. And I had Jimmy had to walk away during that part. I couldn't even think about it in any kind of funny fashion, because the idea just grossed me out so much there. But we're making light of this, but that's you captured a lot of the feelings of the pandemic right there. And when I see that, I see somebody would they whoever it is can't just stay home, can't just quarantine. It's almost like you're still living life and still moving forward at a time when, you really can't.
Yeah.
We can't really live our lives, but at the same time, we have to do what we have to do.
And you mentioned how Broadway, they're reopening, and I've been talking with talking with a few friends about this as well. It makes me wonder, because I know that to put on a production now, you're going to have to factor in your COVID tests. You're going to have to factor in, socially distanced and timed and spaced out rehearsals. So your production times are going to increase. This is going, not to be a naysayer, but I feel like it has a risk potentially of shutting some doors to independent productions and theaters that may not be able to afford to compete at the level that these larger, the Schubert Theater, of course, they're going to throw $1 million into their
and if they can't afford it, they'll just jack the prices up even more. And
exactly. So it brings a lot of ethical questions into how are we going to continue to produce theater, and like you said, they're reopening because of us. I guarantee it, they don't want the competition, because they know what's in store.
I do think that you're going to see a lot of people looking to these outlets, though. As much as we're joking, and I think it'll be great. I think it's going to be a great way when you see people starting to adapt to it. And we talked about, you have your small version, your medium version, and your big version. Like, just as an extra, let's go through that. What would a small version look like this? But
so a small version of this could look at a couple of different ways. I've got the idea of voiceover narration as the backing, and then you see the different people come and go, and you could do that kind of in a real quick montage. I could just take my phone, if I were brave enough, and go down to New York City and film some B-roll and then edit it together. But you could also, like I said, if you gave the narrative of a nurse, in her scrubs, and then a grocery clerk, and those two people encounter each other on the subway, and their voiceover monologue is back and forth this poem, and it's almost sing-songy, chorus-like. So there's a couple of different small ways. And then, as I said, you've got the 30 people on stage in the car. That would be there's your big production. There's your risky production.
Yes, your super spreader event that you're putting on.
But as I'm even reading this and thinking about it, there's a medium production you could do with 3 or 4 people on a stage, all at spaced, and just a light shines over here, and he gives the first stanza, light over here, the next stanza. So there's lots of different dynamics that you could play with, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's kind of fun. What about film? I mean, I could see that.
And film is, the more that we are, forced to do stripped down productions. My idea of the micro short of this would be, like I said, either the 2 characters or the 1 character kind of ambling through the city, and maybe the character is the ghost and they're watching everything. They're kind of watching it all happen. But then the only dialogue that you need is voiceover. And and then with some music, some underscoring, there's so many thematic elements that could really, they take a production, from here to through the roof, and that's for video, for theater, for whatever it is.
Yeah, you're right. It really, it's something that's amazing when you see something that you wrote, and once you add all those other elements, it just feels like something just completely, different, right? That in a way that you never even thought about it before. And you start adding the visuals, and you add the music, then you add, the actors in there, and when it comes together, it's beautiful, just from where it was on your page to what that finished product is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I don't really know, to be honest. I don't know a ton of your work. Do you usually write in poetry form? Is that a common thing for you?
So one of the first things I wrote was actually a screenplay, a historical screenplay set in West Virginia in 1861, about 2 brothers on opposite sides of the Civil War. So I don't always write in prose. but I definitely, as a singer-songwriter, have an affinity towards rhymes.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, you can see just how naturally it comes to you, you know, whereas if I tried to write, you know, with rhyme, it would be out, you know, it would just be like a task I could not complete, to be honest with you. Just my mind doesn't work like that. You know, I'm not a musician or lyricist. So yeah, that's great that, you know, you could, that comes, I don't want to say easily to you, but naturally in your writing.
Very, very naturally. I was fortunate enough. One of the other sources for all of the, you know, classic literature was my grandmother gave me The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and Shakespeare, his complete works, when I was 11 or 12, and I went through most of the book and was just like, oh, this is the language. I'm intoxicated by all of these I ams. Give me them all. And,
the elf songs of the Hobbit, right?
Of Tolkien, but of Shakespeare in particular, just the way he used language, and again, like those rhymes, so I always do this. I quote the way from the first scene of Romeo and Juliet, because it was, you know, it's very poetic, and you can do it Laurence Olivier, or you can do it, you know, good morrow, cousin. Aye, good morning. Is the day so young? But new struck 9. Sad hours seem so long. What sadness lengthens Romeo's hours? Not having that which having makes them short. In love, out of her favor where I am in love. And that poetic sense, we're taught to think of it. We're taught to think of it unnaturally, but I think it is a little bit more natural to us than we want to believe.
Well, when you're a baby, one of the first, you know, they're singing to you before they're even speaking to you. You know, we're constantly hearing music in the background and songs in the background, and you know, gravitating to music before we even gravitate towards words. So it makes sense that, you know, we'd hear that. And maybe that's why Shakespeare is so timeless.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like one of the things, because I took a linguistics class this past spring, we talked about language acquisition from infant and on. That sound, the phonetics. I think there is an auditory quality to poetry and language and to theater, and I think that when the story, when the poem, whatever it is, when it hits our ears, when it hits those right patterns, whoever you are, wherever you are, you're hooked. And that can be seen by, you know, the instantaneous phenomena that is, you know, not Glee, but like you know, those shows that are like just really impactful. They kind of hit every generation, and I don't know why I can't think of an example.
But they're there. We'll edit some.
They are there. I know they have been made, at least one.
You know, it's, you know, have you thought about doing like a long piece that's like poetic like that, like a full, you know, like 90-minute play like that?
I would love to do that. I think for me, because I'm much more kinesthetic about my process as well, I would need a space to, you know, just go in there and shout at the walls. And unfortunately, I don't think my neighbors would appreciate me shouting.
Come on, go for it. What are they going to do?
Well, hollering out, "Oh, give me my sword, ho!"
Just loud. Just tell them, when the show opens, I'll get you tickets. I promise.
Yeah, no, but no, there is a piece that I've been working on. It's sort of a multimedia piece, and it pulls in elements of classic literature, fantasy. It's called The Father's Bench, and we read a part of it with the Philadelphia screenwriters group. Mm-hmm. But that one's, you know, that's the multimedia, the multi-million-dollar production. That's the big production that I saved and I filed back here for after somebody pays me to do something.
You know, it is funny. I think when we all start writing, we all have this idea of like, all I need to do is be better than the worst thing that's out there. And that means I can automatically get produced. And so much of it, though, is just involved with like, you know, Do I have the money to do this? Do I have the means to do it? What's accessible to me at that moment? And I teach writing. I even tell my students sometimes, like, look, sometimes you just gotta figure. You gotta write based on what is available to you in that moment. It isn't always about like what you want to do. Sometimes it works the other way, where I still remember. This was an exercise that we had when I was in college and in a writing class, and they had the prop room, and you had to basically write based on the props that you found in the prop room.
I love it. That sounds like a prompt.
Yeah. So you go through and be like, all right, look, there's a moose head here. All right, we got to find some way that this moose head is going to be involved in this here. Now, you said this was from a writing prompt in a class. Did anyone else did they have the same prompt as you, or?
So no, we all got to, the prompt was to take a photo.
Oh, okay.
And create your narrative from it. So we each chose our own photo and our own story, but you'd be amazed at how similar each person's monologue and then each person's developed piece kind of, they all had very
well, do you think it was because it was during the pandemic and just that's all anybody was experiencing right there?
It could. That's probably more than that. I kind of took it as a universal. Oh, we're all connected. The entanglement theory. Yeah. Everyone's thinking the same at the same time. Mm-hmm. But no, it definitely probably had a lot more to do with how the pandemic was, and we were all still like, oh my God, what are we doing?
Something that and in fact, I'll be doing this with the writers group myself tomorrow. I wrote a piece on basically being a parent, and everything's about parenthood. It's 4 one-act plays I put together, and pretty much that's because that's all I was experiencing for the past year. I had nothing, I wasn't experiencing any kind of like day-to-day interaction other than children on my ass. And therefore that's what I was writing about, so you're just kind of, you're going to see a lot, I guess, coming out of the pandemic, there's going to be it'll be interesting because there's going to be a lot of work centered around the pandemic. And I wonder, is it going to be the thing where people are going to gravitate to it because it was a universal experience, or are people going to be just, COVIDed out?
Yeah. Averse to having any film, like you made a movie about what? No.
Yeah, we all live that movie. We don't need to.
If anybody does do a movie about the pandemic and they don't call it Hindsight is 2020, it's an opportunity missed. That's all I'm saying.
Well, you have to be that guy now. All right. Well, listen, this has been a lot of fun. Like I said, it's our first one-man show on here, and certainly worthy of being our first. It was great. Now I know that you have some other stuff too, though. So would you mind? Do you want to come back another time? We can have you on.
Absolutely,
a full cast. We'll do another piece too.
Oh my goodness, me with a bunch of other actors. That sounds risky, but yeah, let's do it. No, I love it.
No, sounds good to me. All right. So listen, thanks for joining us here for another episode of the DJS Community Theater. Be sure to follow us on Twitch, on YouTube. We have a lot of great shows coming up on our channel. We have Tom, are you there now? Do you want to go over the shows coming up this week? I don't want to do this to Tom. He's doing another show right now. He's on there. John Poverone was the bread and butter around here, I guess. I don't know. I'm the bastard stepchild of this channel. I'm no Dystopia Tonight. In fact, what everybody should do if you're listening to this right now, go. We talk about Zoom bombing. Zoom bomb John Poveromo. All right. Ruin his show if you have to.
Oh no.
All right. Yes, and like I said, follow us here on the Drinks Joke Storytelling channel. Shano, you have anything else you want to plug?
I've got an album coming out sometime this summer. I forget what the date is. It's sometime in June. I'll the next time I'm on, I'll have it written down and I'll know exactly when my things are occurring.
That happens to all the time. People are like, all right, so when are you going to be performing again? I'm like, yeah, you got me. I don't know. I have a calendar somewhere.
It's like Richard Pryor said, if you ask me my name on the wrong day, you're going to get, hold on a minute. I know this. Hang on.
All right, Shenandoah, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us here. We'll see you on the next episode.
My
Good night.
pleasure.